really want to hit the beginning of the next year hard and fast and ready to go. In order to be ready for that, you need to sit down and see where have you been, where are you going, and what's necessary to get there.
It is 2020. You've just finished the holidays. You've enjoyed the time. Some people have ran to the end of the year. Some people have walked, and others may have crawled to the end of the year. But at the end of the day, you've made it to the end of 2019, and we're about to approach 2020. And I think we should talk about 2020 vision. You weren't ready for that. My cousin mentioned that last night. I figured I'd throw that in there. So as we talk about 2020, one of the things I wanted to bring up is as you plan the vision and you set out what you want to do for the year, I think it's good to see where you are, where you want to go, and I would even add a third question in there: who are you? So I use those questions in reference to career and resume. So I know we're going to talk later about changing jobs and maintaining relationships, but I wanted to bring up at the first point, before you do that, what does your resume say about you?
Okay. No, I think that's a really good point. And I'm of the opinion that whether you are going to change jobs or not, every year, I'd say even every 6 months, you should update your resume. Because I think most people don't really start thinking about, hey, what do I have to show for all the work that I've been putting in until they try to update their resume. And I think some people, when they go to update their resume, they're like, what have I been doing? And I think if you're asking yourself that question, it's like you aren't thinking about it enough.
Exactly. And it really goes to speak to, are you moving because of a job? Like, are you looking for a financial boost? Are you looking for a title? Or are you making a career move that's going to set up your resume for the next goal or for your long-term goal? So I wanted to bring that really conversation up because I think we need to define the difference between a career decision and a money move or a lateral move. So what do you think those differences are? What's a lateral move?
Yeah, I think a lateral move would be, where you're doing something very similar, whether you're doing it at a new organization or whether you're doing it in the same organization where you just kind of want to change. And I think there are multiple reasons for that. I think sometimes a reason for making a lateral move where, hey, you're not getting an increase in pay, the nature of your responsibility doesn't change, but hey, you know what, maybe the dynamics of the team that you're currently working with just isn't a good fit. Like you like the job, you're cool with the pay, you just want a different team or you just want a different environment.
Culture, right? Yeah. And I would say, so to add to that, a career move is I see my potential here in this role. I've done everything that's necessary or required as I look out at the landscape of the current company that I'm in or what's going on. I want to move to the next level. And me moving to the next level of my career, of my industry, trade, whatever, is going to set me up for that second level. I think we kind of talked about that before. So one of the points to make is that when you're making decisions about your career and as you do your 2020 outlook, doing an assessment of who are you, what does your resume say about you, what work have you done, does your resume speak well to that, where are you, what's the current role, what's the position, and then where are you going, what do you want that next role to be before you start just throwing out job applications or going into talking about different things. And your experience in interviewing and in your different roles, what are some reasons why people leave different jobs or seek out other positions?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of things. And I'll say from my experience of being a manager, a supervisor, and spend a lot of time with HR as far as hiring new positions and even as they're trying to get new positions approved when doing kind of the planning and just looking at that to say, okay, all right, what is it that's, I guess, what's the reason where people are leaving? And some of the reasons have been a lot of times people aren't getting along with their man. Like they just don't feel like that working chemistry is going well with the current, like their direct manager. And one of the things I've heard in some leadership trainings is people don't leave companies, people leave managers. And I think in some respects that can be right a lot of times. I think another thing is just when you're in an organization where people feel like, hey, I don't feel like the organization really has a vision, a goal of what they're trying to do. So I can't even figure out what I need to be doing because, hey, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of clarity here.
Right.
And sometimes people have enough confusion in their own life that they don't want to take on somebody else's confusion.
Yep. I think that's another point. I would say money is another reason why people are leaving. They either are in a financial situation where they need more money, or they believe that their career or experience requires or is based or gets more money, or they should be getting more money from whatever reasons. But I think those are good points. And let's go back and unpack the talk about people don't leave jobs or companies, they leave managers. I would say in my experience, I've dealt with the range of managers. I've had some that were mentors and training and very focused in my career development. I have some that were all about task oriented and couldn't care less about how I felt or what I thought. It was more, this is the job, get it done. If you can't get it done, then move and I'll find somebody else to get it done. And that whole wide range of spectrum, I've learned a lot from all of them. It could be said that from the bad one I learned what not to do, and from the good one I learned what to do. But I feel like the best is somewhere in the middle, where you're not tying the emotional connection to my job as my manager, but you're also learning and being pushed into an uncomfortable place as well. What's been your experience with managers, and do you have a preference?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've had a range of managers. I've had some that I didn't even know they existed. And then I've had some that I think are really, really good. I mean, well, I don't have the permission to say their names right now, but I think of like my best manager ever. I mean, she was great. I mean, I was in a newer role, and it was something that I hadn't really done before. I mean, and there was a lot of pressure because the company was going through SEC investigations. There were different changes, and it was a publicly traded company. So there was a lot of changes going on, and part of our job was to, hey, tackle those changes and deal with those. But at the same time, like I said, the role was new to me. But like just working with her as far as one of those things where she knew and understood the pressure we were under. And she wasn't one of those managers who just kind of let all the pressure just fall on her people, to where she knew her stuff. She expected you to deliver, and she would step up when need be to take the tough hits or the really tough questions we were getting from external parties that we had to answer. I mean, and to giving the team the coverage that it needed to go work and do the stuff we need to do in the background. So when it was time to deliver the final product, hey, the team can deliver together. And I learned a lot from her. And then I think also just other managers that I've had where, hey, they were going through life changes where their manager, their wife had a baby, so they had to be out, and it was a very critical time. So like their wife had some challenges in the pregnancy, but having to balance, hey, real world life and being there for a spouse, and then at the same time still providing kind of the leadership and kind of the guidance. And I think in that situation, just like giving me more authority than I normally would have had because he knew he wasn't going to be there. So it's just making sure that, hey, I know I need to take care of my family, but at the same time, I don't want to put you guys in a bad situation. So him being able to adjust in that situation.
Is it fair to say that in those in those situations, it creates an opportunity for that employee or team member to step up and take the lead, or is it on the company or that manager to make sure that everything is situated?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I think it is I think part of it is it's an opportunity for the employee to step up. Now, where I think it falls on the manager is just the reality that life does happen. And one of the things that he and I had talked about, because I had worked with him and actually he was my manager's manager in a previous role. And one of the things that him and I talked about even then was just, hey, always, building up your team so that, hey, when life does happen, because it will, I mean, that your team is comfortable enough and prepared enough that they can step up. Because I do think, like I said, it's a mix of, it's on the manager to prepare their team to, hey, something may happen or it will happen. Is the team ready to step up? And then on the employee, it's like, hey, something has happened. You need to step up.
Right. That's one of the things that I use in my career and with my team is I always want to train my replacement. One, because I don't know, I may go out, anything may happen, and I just want to make sure that things will be covered or worst case scenario. But two, I plan to move up. So I don't believe I'll be able to move up into the role that I want if the company sees a vacancy or can't see me replacing my role or sees a risk if I change roles. So I want to make sure that I'm training the team and training everyone. One, does everyone know what everyone else is doing? Let's not create any silos. But two, if I were to leave for whatever reason, will it continue on or is it all dictated on me? Because if it is, then it really puts me in a box with the decisions that I can make. So I'm going to go to the next, take that conversation about the manager. And one of the cliche things that we hear a lot is tone at the top. So when you look out as an employee and in the role that you're in, and some of the reasons why people leave is the culture. Is the culture of the team the manager's responsibility, or is the culture really dictated on the team and the work and the environment? Like, can that be changed by the team, or can it only be changed or impacted by the manager?
I think it definitely, I lean to the fact that I think it falls on the manager to decide, hey, if you're going to own leadership over this team, hey, it's your job to make sure you set the tone for whatever happens in this team. Now, within the limits that you can. Now, of course, if there are higher levels of leadership that are doing something that's completely contrary, I think, hey, you got some limits there.
Right.
But I think to the extent that you can, a manager should seek to create whatever culture that they want. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, if the work doesn't get done, or let's say if 5 people leave off the team because they're like, hey, I don't like the culture here, then that work kind of falls to the manager, or the responsibility falls to the manager to figure out how they're still going to get it done if people on their team start leaving.
Right.
So I think it's in the manager's best interest to own that, to say, hey, how can I create the environment for whatever I control? How can I create the environment that works for that?
To where we're still getting the work done, but it's a decent, fun culture to where people feel like they are needed and impactful when being heard, but not being yelled at or commanded to do things. I think that's one of the reasons why people leave. And
I think also, I mean, I've worked with some people who had completely different interests to where they don't really care about having a fun culture as a team. Like, their interests were completely different. They were very deeply technical. That's what they really wanted. They really didn't want much interaction. I think that becomes a good, difference between a manager and a person who becomes a good leader is just understanding what is it that your team wants. Because like in those environments where I worked around people who they really didn't want to interact. Like there was one lady that I guess was on my team where she had a lot of anxiety issues and anxiety that she had over the years, to where she really didn't want to interact with people. Like she really didn't want that fun environment, but she did because of the different anxieties or how she approached it and just different experiences. She wanted, a safe environment where she could come, do her tasks, interact only when needed. But then, I mean, and like I said, I had to kind of figure that out. Like, hey, what does she need? And just kind of create, hey, that bubble around her to where she still did her job very well. She was excellent at it. But it's just understanding, hey, what do the people on your team need?
Because I've heard that, I think the phrase for that is an individual contributor role. Just someone who is not looking to be a manager, who's really not looking to climb a ladder. It's, I have an expertise. This is the role I've been hired to do. They do their job, they go home, and that's it. And where you have the other roles that are wanting to excel or wanting to take on a manager level role or kind of go higher. But that's a good question. Now, a good topic when I transition that to kind of where you want to go. In my 3 questions, you take that. Maybe you don't like the culture. Maybe you're looking for more money. Maybe you don't get along with your manager, or you don't really see any outlook for yourself. How do you take that or make the decision to getting another role or going out to find the next job?
Yeah, I mean, I think those first things is just being honest with yourself to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep it all the way honest and real with myself about what do I not like, or what would I like? Because I think a lot of people, sometimes they come across a couple of things that they don't like, and they're like, oh, I'm finding a new job. And it's just like, I guess to me, it's almost like I'm trying to run forward looking backwards the whole time. So I was like, you got to be honest with yourself about what is it that you're really looking for. And I think once you start to kind of crystallize that, I think I'm a big fan of, that's where you start networking. You start meeting other people or just interacting with other people who work in that field, because a job can look very good on the outside.
Yes.
Until you actually get in and do it, or until you talk to someone who's actually doing it, and they can start to kind of color in the lines for you. To say, like, for example, like, I usually never look at taking a job unless I talk to someone who's either directly involved, who's done it in the past, or someone who has a direct link to someone who works within that organization. Because I think, like I said, you want to understand, hey, what's the real outlook? What is it really going to be like in this opportunity?
Right. And I think a lot of people, like you said, they run into a couple bad things. Maybe one thing hurt your feelings, or one thing didn't go your way, and immediately I want another job. And then you go out and take another job, or you start applying and you realize it's a lateral move. So it's not really doing anything for your resume. And then you look at your resume and the question is asked, well, how long have you been in your current company? Well, just a little bit of time. Well, why are you moving to this? Well, for me as an interviewer, it speaks to, are you just making changes? Like, you're either looking for money, or you're just trying to get away from something. And in that case, are you going to be trying to get away when you get here and see something that you don't like? But then to go to that next point about, if you're making that career decision of, this is where I am, this is what I want, then networking or starting to figure out, is this next role going to provide me those tools in order to get there? And I think that's a planned decision. That's when you're ahead of your game. You kind of see down the line of where you're trying to go and what you're doing. And that's the kind of point that I want to bring out.
No, I think that's a good one. I mean, I think that having the more clear picture you have of what you want to achieve, like what your roadmap looks like, I think the easier it is to navigate those decisions. Because I do think you may find yourself in a situation where you accepted a job, you've been doing it, and it's just like, you know what? Now that I've been doing the job, I don't really feel like, hey, this job fits into ultimately what I'm trying to do. I think that's a very legitimate thing. I mean, and I think you only will know that if you have a clear picture of, hey, what are you trying to achieve?
Right. And what's your long-term plan? Like, is this job, in the current workload, in the current status or team or culture, is this something that I can be comfortably at for the next 5 years or whatever? I mean, lately, I think it's in our generation or with the millennial generation, or however you want to classify it, people stay at jobs a lot less. I mean, in generations past, it was because you had the pension plans, and if you stayed at the company long enough, you got a pension plan that set you up for retirement. But nowadays, it's just the 401ks and that type of personal investment and planning. So you don't really have to stay at the company long. You just kind of figure out what you want and you go forward. So I think the thing I want to bring up or point out, and I think we addressed, is who are you? What's on your resume? What is it speaking to your body of work? Does it really show your growth and progress in your career? The two is, where are you? What are the reasons why you are interested in leaving the current company? Is it culture based? Is it money based? Is it manager based, or some disagreement? Or have you reached your potential and now it's time to look for something else? And then 3, where are you going, and what is that role to get there? Is it a lateral move because of money? Is it the same? Make sure you figure out what that role brings before you just jump out because sometimes it puts you in a bad spot.